Have you ever felt that there is an invisible war happening inside your head, where your will to win is constantly defeated by an inexplicable desire to do nothing? Why is it so easy to spend hours scrolling through your phone screen, but so painful to focus for only 10 minutes on a project that could change your life? The answer is not in your lack of character, but in the way your brain has been trained to function. Today, we are going to dive into the neuroscience behind laziness and discipline to discover how you can, in fact, reprogram your mind and transform a scattered brain into an unstoppable machine of focus and productivity. Stay with me until the end, because the last discovery we are going to share may be the missing key for you to finally unlock your true potential. Our modern world, with its flood of information and constant notifications, has trained our brain for distraction. What Marion Rojas Estep calls this scattered brain is not a defect, but an adaptation. We are constantly activating our sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight mode, which keeps us alert, but prevents us from accessing the higher functions of our prefrontal cortex, responsible for planning and discipline. The human attention span, which was once 12 seconds, today is only 8 seconds, less than that of a goldfish. But the good news is that we can reverse this. 1. The hijacking of attention, the scattered brain. We live in an era of hyperstimulation without precedent in human history. Every notification that vibrates in your pocket, every new tab you open in the browser, and every second of infinite scrolling on social networks represents a small, but significant, hijacking of your attention. Our brain, shaped by millennia to seek novelty and quick rewards as a form of survival, ends up becoming addicted to this constant flood of artificial stimuli. The result? It becomes increasingly difficult, and even painful, to maintain focus on a single task for a prolonged period of time. It is as if we were living in a state of permanent alert, a kind of anxious vigilance, but without there being any real danger. This fragmentation of attention not only makes us less productive, but consumes a colossal amount of mental energy, leaving us exhausted even before the day really begins. The curiosity here is that the brain does not differentiate a real threat from an urgent notification. For it, the stress is the same. 2. The cycle of cheap dopamine. Many people confuse dopamine with pleasure, but neuroscience shows us that it is, in fact, the neurotransmitter of anticipation and motivation. It is what makes us want something. The modern problem is what we call cheap dopamine. Social networks, short videos, and games are specifically designed to release quick and easy shots of dopamine into your system with minimum effort. When you get used to this instant reward, your brain raises the threshold of what it considers rewarding. This ends up emptying your motivation stock for the things that really matter, such as studying, working on a difficult project, or learning a new language. These tasks require effort and offer long-term rewards, but for a brain addicted to cheap dopamine, they seem unbearably boring and exhausting. It is a chemical trap. The more immediate pleasure you seek, the less willpower remains to build your future. Have you ever felt that inexplicable laziness to start something important, but had plenty of energy to spend hours on TikTok? That is your brain chemistry playing against you. 3. Prefrontal cortex versus amygdala. Imagine that inside your head there is a control room with two very different pilots. On one side, we have the prefrontal cortex, the CEO of the brain. It is the youngest and most evolved part of our brain anatomy, responsible for logical reasoning, long-term planning, and, mainly, impulse control. This is where your discipline resides. On the other side, we have the amygdala, a primitive structure that is part of the limbic system. The amygdala does not think about tomorrow. It only wants safety, comfort, and pleasure now. It reacts to stress and fear in an instinctive way. When you are under pressure, tired, or hungry, the amygdala tends to take control, hijacking the CEO. It is at this moment that the voice of procrastination speaks louder. Leave it for tomorrow. Just 5 more minutes of rest. Discipline, therefore, is not only willpower. It is the ability to keep the prefrontal cortex in command, even when the amygdala is screaming for comfort. Understanding this internal battle is the first step to stop blaming yourself and start acting strategically. 4. Cortisol and survival mode. Did you know that stress can be the greatest ally of your laziness? When we live in a constant state of alert, our body releases cortisol in excess. In situations of real danger, cortisol saves us, but the chronic stress of everyday life, such as traffic, demands at work, and information overload, keeps cortisol levels dangerously high for too long. This puts your brain in what we call survival mode. In this state, the organism prioritizes basic functions and tries to save as much energy as possible because it understands that we are in a prolonged crisis. The result is a feeling of apathy and lack of initiative that we often confuse with laziness or lack of character. In truth, your brain is only trying to protect you from a collapse, shutting down the expensive functions of planning and creativity. That is why, after a stressful day, the last thing you want is to go to the gym or study. To overcome this inertia, the path is not to demand more from yourself, but rather to find ways to signal to your nervous system that you are safe, lowering cortisol levels so that the energy of discipline can flow again. 5. The rule of the first 2 hours. One of the most valuable lessons from Marian Rojas's tape is the protection of the beginning of the day. She argues that the first 2 hours after waking up are the period when your brain is most vulnerable and, at the same time, has the greatest plastic potential. If the first thing you do when you open your eyes is pick up your phone, you are handing your attention and your dopamine over to the outside world. You begin the day in a reactive way, responding to other people's problems or comparing yourself with perfect lives on social networks. This creates a cortisol spike early in the morning and drains your focus reserve. The proposal is radical, but transformative. Keep the phone away for at least 2 hours. Use this sacred time for rituals that stabilize your nervous system. A light walk, a coffee in silence, writing in a journal, or planning your 3 priorities for the day. By doing this, you shield your mind against dispersion and enter creation mode, instead of reaction mode. It is like charging the battery of your discipline so that it lasts the whole day. Try it for only 3 days, and you will see how your ability to say no to distractions will increase drastically. 6. Neuroplasticity in practice. Many times we believe that we were born this way, and that lack of discipline is an immutable trait of our personality. Modern neuroscience proves the opposite through the concept of neuroplasticity. Think of your brain as a garden where the most used paths become paved roads, while the little used paths are taken over by weeds. If you spent years practicing procrastination, this neural path is very strong and automatic. However, every time you consciously choose to perform a difficult task despite the desire to stop, you are digging a new path. In the beginning, it is difficult and requires a lot of effort, but with repetition, this new circuit of discipline begins to strengthen. The secret is not perfection, but consistency. The brain does not learn from large isolated gestures, but from small daily repetitions. By understanding that you are physically reconfiguring your gray matter with each positive decision, the journey of change stops being a burden and becomes a personal engineering project. You are not just changing a habit, you are literally building a new brain. 7. The power of radical rest, glymphatic system. In a culture that glorifies work while they sleep, neuroscience gives an urgent warning. Sleep is the greatest ally of high performance. During deep sleep, a fascinating process called glymphatic cleaning occurs. Imagine that your brain has a sanitation system that only opens the gates when you sleep. This system removes toxic proteins, such as beta amyloid, which accumulate during the day and are linked to cognitive decline. When you sleep little, your brain wakes up dirty, inflamed, and slow. Lack of sleep directly affects the prefrontal cortex, drastically reducing your ability to focus and resist temptations. Basically, a sleep-deprived brain is an impulsive and lazy brain by biological necessity. Sleeping well, between 7 and 9 hours per night, is not a luxury or a sign of lack of ambition. It is the physiological foundation so that your discipline can even exist. A sleep hygiene ritual, turning off screens and lowering the lights 1 hour before going to bed, is one of the most productive investments you can make for your unstoppable mind. 8. BDNF, the fertilizer of the mind. If there were a magic pill that increased focus, improved mood, and made learning easier, everyone would take it. Well, this pill exists, and it is called physical exercise. When you move your body, especially in aerobic activities, your brain produces a protein called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Scientists affectionately call it miracle grow or fertilizer for neurons. BDNF protects existing brain cells and stimulates the birth of new ones, mainly in the hippocampus, the area linked to memory and learning. In addition, exercise helps balance dopamine and serotonin levels, reducing the anxiety that often paralyzes us. Many times, the laziness to begin intellectual work is, in truth, a lack of chemical activation in the brain. A quick 20-minute workout may be enough to flood your system with BDNF and oxygen, changing your mental state from "I can't" to "let's do this." Movement generates the energy that the mind needs to remain disciplined. Do not work out only for your muscles. Work out for your prefrontal cortex. 9. Micro-victories and positive reinforcement. Our brain is like a child that needs encouragement to continue a difficult task. If you focus only on the gigantic final goal, such as writing a book or losing 20 kilos, the path seems so long that the amygdala becomes frightened and paralyzes. The secret to hacking this resistance is the use of micro-victories. By dividing a big project into ridiculously small tasks, such as write only 3 paragraphs or walk for 5 minutes, you make the beginning too easy for the brain to say no. And here is the neuroscientific trick. Every time you cross one of these small tasks off your list, your brain releases a small, but real, dose of reward dopamine. This positive reinforcement signals to the limbic system that the effort is worth it. Over time, you begin to associate disciplined action with a feeling of pleasure and competence instead of pain and deprivation. Discipline stops being something you have to do and becomes something you are able to do. Celebrate each small advance. It is these microdoses of success that pave the road to great achievements. 10. Purpose as an anchor. In the end, discipline without meaning becomes only a form of personal torture. The neuroscience of deep motivation shows us that having a clear purpose acts as a biological anchor for our behavior. When you have a why that resonates with your fundamental values, your brain activates the reward system in a much more sustainable way than any momentary pleasure. Studies show that people with a strong sense of purpose have lower levels of cortisol and greater emotional resilience. Purpose functions as a filter for your daily decisions. It helps your prefrontal cortex say no to temporary distractions in favor of something greater. And remember, purpose does not need to be something that will change the entire world. It only needs to change your world. It can be the desire to be an example for your children, the will to achieve your financial independence, or the passion for mastering an art. When you connect your daily tasks to this greater meaning, laziness loses strength, because you are not just working, you are building your identity. Purpose transforms effort into investment and discipline into freedom. Conclusion. The great truth is that laziness does not define who you are. It only describes the current state of your nervous system. But, as we saw today, you have all the biological tools to change the rules of this game. Discipline is not a gift, it is training. Do not try to change everything at once. Choose only one of these 10 points that resonated most with you and commit to it for the next 2 weeks. You will notice that, by changing one small circuit, all the rest of your brain begins to align. If this content brought clarity to you, do not forget to leave your like and subscribe to the channel to continue receiving these keys of mental transformation. Now, I want to know from you, which of these 10 habits do you feel is the most difficult to apply in your routine today and why? Answer here in the comments. I will read and respond to as many people as possible so we can help one another on this journey toward an unstoppable mind. Until the next video.